Roxana. I'm the product designer at LIMS Plus, and today I have the pleasure to have Carrie by my side. Carrie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, I am Carrie Myers. I'm the laboratory director for water testing laboratories, the Salisbury location, Salisbury, Maryland. And I've had several positions here throughout my career, but currently I am the lab director here, and I have had the pleasure to be with the company for about 23 plus years, going on 24 years. So I started here very early in my career and happy to still be here.
Congratulations. 20-something years, that's a lot.
Yes, it is. It's a long time. And I'm happy to see the environment grow, to see the business grow, not only in the business, but the environmental world, the water world, so to speak, and to see where it's been able to take us as an industry. So, yeah.
So, Carrie, what kind of clients do you have in this area in Salisbury?
So here on the Eastern Shore, we are a heavy agricultural area. So we are fortunate to be rural, which I love about this area. But with that comes a lot of farming. We have a lot of agricultural when it comes to the chicken industry, which big fan of, by the way. So yes, we have a lot of that, which for us leads to a lot of business. So we are fortunate in that way. But we also have a lot of individual water supplies that are, we're all fed by groundwater here, as is the whole state of Maryland. But where we're so rural here on the Eastern Shore, we have a lot of public water systems that have their individual water supplies. So because of that, we do have a business opportunity, a service to provide our clients, because they do have to adhere to testing that's required by the state of Maryland, and they need a certified laboratory to provide that for them. And we are happy to try to serve that for them and give them good service, quality service in a timely manner, and the best way that we can, at the best cost that we can.
And I know that you actually help them make sure that they are getting all the tests that are required by the government.
Yes.
So you were like the first person that told me that we are actually double checking that we are going there and collect all the samples before they are even calling us to ask about it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes, so we monitor the databases that are out there. We make sure that we generate the schedules. We make sure that our collectors are there sometimes before our clients know that they need us to be, but the client relies on that. So when they ask us to provide this service for them, we're giving them that reliability that it's going to be done, and it's going to be done on time, and that it's going to be handled in a way that is not only within our certified laboratory, and that the data is going to be reliable, but then also that it's going to be reportable. And it's going to be reported to the people, in our case, the regulatory agency that needs to have it, and then of course to the client. And we pride ourselves on that, and always have. All of our laboratories throughout the state, we have several laboratories, and that's a big part of our work that we do on the drinking side, the potable side of our water, and then of course we have the wastewater side that we do as well.
Yeah. So talking about more about this, you have a lot of public institutions that you're kind of taking care of, let's say. How did you do that before having any kind of system in place? How did you manage to have all the schedules on point and not missing any sample?
It was tedious. I would say that a lot of eyes on, and then a lot of logs, a lot of eyes to computer, pen to paper, and then documenting that pen to paper to make sure that that's done.
So you had a logbook for every single public institution, and what kind of samples you have to go and collect?
Yeah.
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 And then when you had to give them to your collectors, how did that work for you? Like before having
Yeah, so we are fortunate to not have a lot of turnover. And by that, I mean our employees have been with us for some time. So for a business that has a lot of turnover, I can imagine it would be even more hectic. For us, at least, our employees are consistent quarter to quarter and month to month. So we tend to have the same person on the same route. So that made it a little easier, but if you had turnover, it would be even more maddening, I would think. But in our ways, the certified collectors would have their routes, and then a management system, a LIMS system, they would be using the logbooks, generating their own chain of custodies. In some cases, that would be, they would have some saved, but in some cases, they would be making them on a day-to-day basis, which took time. Yeah, and even with the most savvy tech people, that would take some time to generate and make sure that there was no mistaking of those very tedious numbers that would be associated with those clients.
Yeah.
The benefit that we had was that we were using the same people. So they kind of got into, so they kind of got into this routine. But it still was a process of having, and so we try to keep the same people on the same route.
Yeah, to just make it easier and faster.
Yes, so person A did route A, so to speak, and that made it as quick and efficient as it could be for us. But in a post-LIMS world, we can assign those things. A person can, go in and very efficiently select with a click of a mouse and a few selections, or can filter by our counties or cities. We've been gifted filters that allow us to manipulate our files in ways that we could not do in a handwrite with a logbook.
Yeah.
Yes. And so that's made it much easier for us. And then being able to just print them and print labels and...
Oh, yeah. So before, you gave them everything, like you prepared the COC and they would just have like general labels.
Yeah.
And then they would write, right?
Right. And I mean write as in write, not correct.
Yes.
Correct. We would write. Yeah. And it was a lot. And we had a system because we had to. So we had a sort of a nomenclature, for lack of a term, and how I made them identify their samples.
Yeah.
So they were specific to that collector and to that system, because they had to be unique.
Yeah.
So when you have to uniquely identify something and it needs to be identifiable quickly
by any of you,
yes,
at any step of the process.
That's right.
I know that you had the sample collector's initials.
We did.
Yeah, in the ID, and we had a lot of discussions about that in the beginning.
Yes.
Like, how do you guys create the IDs? That was, I think, the main topic that we had.
And it was such a simple process for us when we were doing it, because in our mind it made so much sense. And it took a little while for us to let go of that, if you remember. Yeah, it took a while for us to let go of that, because we were like, well, because we could look at it, we could know the month and the year it was done and who did it. In that instance, we could know that. And it was something that...
You had to train people.
Yeah.
In the beginning to, well, this is what this
is how you have to do it. Right. And it's something that we let go of. And once we let it go, we have had in a few occasions where we've had someone have to collect something outside of LIMS on an occasion. And it's been few and far between.
Really?
Okay, but it has happened.
Yeah.
And I tell you, there's some griping that goes on about that. Like, I don't miss this, Carrie. Like, I really don't miss this process. And I'm like, you want to say that a little louder? Because, in the beginning, there's some, and anything takes time. Anything takes time to learn, especially when you are the gift of having people who have been with you for a while. Is that they're in their routines. And me being a creature of that, like I said, when you've been here for a couple of decades, you get into a habit. But you and I had many conversations, and one thing I am known for is just because it's always been done a certain way does not make it right.
Yes. And this is one thing that I appreciate about you, because from the beginning you were open to other possibilities, like to change, not to change everything. Let's be honest with that.
Right.
But like you were open to other potential changes that might help you and also everyone that is involved in the entire testing process being more efficient. So you guys can see everything. Everything could be as transparent as possible. You can find stuff quicker, hopefully.
Yes. And we can. Anybody who may be listening or looking at this at some point, I've got a multi-level building here, and it's nice for me to be able to, from any device that I might have in my hand, that I can look and see what's in my incubators and whether I need to pull them from my incubators without traversing stairs to do that in my micro lab. So that's a benefit to me rather than,
going up and down the stairs.
Up and downstairs.
You're still doing that.
I'm still doing that. Yeah, but I like to say that that's for my health now, not because I have to see what's in my incubators, So anytime you can reduce that or that you can see what's going on in your lab is beneficial, and anytime that I don't have to look in 3 places to get client information, which when you're using logs, and there's some logs I've not let go of, that.
Yeah. You had information in different places.
Yes.
And
there's one particular thing that in regards to my state's certification that I'm not quite, until I get an inspection, I'm not letting go of. But in terms of like our logs and where we kept client information, it's hard to keep that. You can only write so much in a single page of paper.
Exactly.
But what we've been able to gain with this LIMS, that potentially an open menu can afford us, is, client information.
Yeah.
Right? So it is very helpful, and I do use that.
I know.
Okay? I use it all the time. If I need to make a phone call to someone, I utilize my LIMS system to get to my client's information. Because that's what I should be using. And in a world outside of that, what happens in a business where you don't have all your information in one place.
Yes.
And what happened in this place is that something will get updated, but something else won't.
Yeah.
Okay? Or at least that was my experience. And with the best of intentions, it will happen. And then you get an angered Carrie because I'm calling a number that's not active anymore.
Correct.
And it's always me who would do it, and heads are roll. Okay? So for us, that is, I use nothing but that now because I know that's the active system.
Nice.
There is no other system for us right now with our client information.
Nice.
So
thank you. I mean, it's not like that I've been thanking.
Well, we populated it.
Like the entire team, right?
Yeah. But
so,
why did we populated it?
Yeah.
That's why we intended it.
Yeah.
Now, it's only as good as what your laboratory gives you.
Yes.
So if they don't spend the time to give you updated and accurate information, that's on them.
They can't access it because they didn't provide it, right?
That's on them. Okay.
Yes.
But all of our labs spent the time to make sure that before they gave you that name, that number, that email, that 14th email, that it was up to date. Okay. And that's all that we use.
Yeah. Well, that's the way it should be, right?
Correct.
If you are using something, you should have everything super accessible in one place.
That's what we are using.
Nice. And I know that we talked a lot about how many email addresses
should you need.
There,
infinity and beyond. Okay. And I would say that even when they start bouncing back, we have to have that ability to be able to manipulate that information because it's constantly changing, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Right? It's always constantly changing with
there
people.
There is always an extra person that wants to see the results.
That's right. Or that person's been there and now it's a month later and they're gone.
Yeah.
Right? what I have learned here is that not everyone is as blessed as I am with turnover. Okay, turnover is a real thing, and people come and people go. So that update of information is constantly changing. So being able to update that and have it in one place.
They're changing their rent, but they're not changing the lab that they're using.
This
right?
is true. Yeah, they're changing their employees.
Yes.
Okay, but that's what I mean by change.
Or billing information.
Correct.
Because we talked in the beginning, okay, we would like to have as much information for you guys as possible. And if we are having already the client information and where do you send the reports to, why couldn't we just have the billing information as well? And then we ended up even creating the feature of paid and unpaid, even though you're using QuickBooks right now.
Yes.
So you're using QuickBooks, but you didn't have anything to link back to the actual order. So we made that paid and unpaid feature so you can actually filter and see what's going on. Can I send the report or not?
Based on if it's paid or not. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And we're doing our logins now for our samples. If someone pays, you know, it's being documented right on sample receipt, or we are able to log our bulk invoicing clients right on receipt. And then our reporting person knows whether they can issue that report based on paid or not. It's not some like little missable function. I mean, it's so glaringly obvious that this report can't go out. So it's not something that's getting missed. Those reports are held, and if anything will motivate someone to pay, it's that they haven't gotten their report. So that's been huge. I feel like for us, because it's right there, it's not something that you have to go fumbling for the chain of custody for or the intake forms for. It's there, and when that document's done, and even the person who's handling the payments, which is often me, it's a click of a button to show that it's paid in the system. And the next time that the reporting person's going through reporting, it's clear. She reports it. Yeah, so it's not even, I don't even have to notify them.
Yeah, and there's the other thing. Like, I just hear you guys thinking, okay, if I mark this as paid, I don't have to tell you, right?
I don't have to tell you.
Yeah, and then the person you were talking to is the one responsible with
Reporting.
actually reporting. So she's like, yeah, of course. I mean, I can
see it. She's like, no, you know, save me the email. What a pre-world meant is I'm constantly sending her notifications on payments.
Oh, really? You did that?
Yes, because otherwise
she wouldn't know.
How would she know?
Okay.
I'm not doing the reporting. She is. But I get the notifications because I handle the billing.
Correct.
Okay, so I then have to send her an email that says blah, blah, blah paid. And so then she has to mark it and then handle it. So that's why we're syncing on that, because it's now I can literally go into the LIMS system, click the button, and it's literally a bloop. Kind of fun. Paid. And then I have to do nothing, because the next time she goes into her reporting, which is every minute, right?
Yeah.
Okay, then done.
I know that also it was a change for you to capture this information when you create the actual order. So when a client is dropping off something and you collect payment or not, you wanted to make sure that you have a way to capture that information as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
What we've done here for us, we've got a smallish list of our clients, just so for the people who are intaking orders that they know who get bulk invoicing for us.
Correct.
They can just mark them bulk invoicing, and then, you know, otherwise they're taking payment or not. And then if somebody's logging someone in, they know what the costs are or whatever associated. So it's super easy, because then that person that's going into doing invoicing at a later time, it's right there. There's no question about, well, I told this person it was $15, or I told this person it was $18, or I told this person it was $1 million, you know? There's no question. Like, you told them this is what you said. Hopefully it was the right amount, right? Should be.
Yes.
Right? It is what it is, but
it is what it is.
But you gave them that amount, and that's what you told them, and so it's right there. So there's no question about that. And then it's right on their account. No, there is no direct invoicing through it, but it's still valuable. And not to say that at some time there won't be.
Well, no, we don't say that.
Okay.
We would like to be as simple as possible, integrated. Yeah.
However, maybe one day I wake up and I'm like, you know what, I'm done with QuickBooks. QuickBooks has made me mad. You know, there's other things out there. There's better things out there.
Yep.
You know what I mean? There's things that I've looked into that integrate options that I can build directly in the field.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
So I don't hate the fact that it's not integrated.
Oh, okay.
I just want to go on the record for saying that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Maybe someday, but wasn't our goals.
Mm-hmm.
At least not at this point.
But it was on the list.
It was on the list.
It was on the list to have some sort of billing information
Yes.
there. Yeah.
Yes. And it's working well. It's
Great.
working very well. But in terms of like the full integration, I like it the way it is for the time being. Yeah.
You like it to be as simple as possible,
Yeah.
so you can be hands-on.
Well, and I like to have options. I feel like if it were like completely linked
To a specific service.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You'd feel like restrained.
Yeah, like then I was like married to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And then what if I didn't want to be married to it anymore?
Yeah.
Right? You know what they say, it costs more to
Get
get
the
divorced than it does to get married.
Yes, that's true.
This is true. Yeah.
This is true.
Yeah.
Okay, so one step back.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually ended up talking about invoicing, but before invoicing, we were talking about labels.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So the handwritten labels. I remember the first time when we got like the big launch, right? And
Yes.
we installed the Dymo printers throughout the lab.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't wait to see your reaction when we printed the first labels. And you were like, super serious. You looked at them. Oh yeah,
They're fine.
They're fine. And I was like, oh my God, like I don't think she realizes how much this will change their like flow,
Yeah.
because you had colored labels,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you had different information on it, of course. And we changed that a bit because we had a different ID on them and stuff like that.
Right.
And I saw your reaction, like super, like, yeah, whatever. But then Ashley actually played around with it. She's doing a lot of collections, okay? So she's printing a lot of labels. So for her, seeing that she just had to click one button and have all the labels prepared, she was like, oh my God,
this is amazing.
Yeah, and do you remember she asked to have one of those label printers on her actual desk? Yeah.
Yes, she was so excited. Yes, she was like, oh, this is amazing. And I think and that's where it comes from, like being able to talk to everybody in the building, because everybody has their thing. Like everybody has their thing that is important to them. Their perspective, they have their thing that when they're doing their, and not just because of skill level or what their strong suits are, but it's their work.
Yep.
What makes their job easier, how they move through their samples, and how they move through their day, and what makes it easier for them. And not that you need to hear everybody's take and make everybody happy, because you're not God, right? But trying to please, let's say, a quality assurance person, a sampler, a manager, and a reporting person and a billing person, let's say just at that minimum, to say nothing of a lab director and the person who's paying you, is difficult to try to hear all those things and then put it into a product that is functional.
Yep.
We had no LIMS here. Right? We did not have a LIMS product here. We had tried a LIMS product. Matter of fact, we tried two
before.
Yes. And the hang up, I will say, was we're small. And we failed in being able to backload the system.
You had to do it by yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
That's where I feel we failed. Okay. That's my perspective of where I feel we failed, was trying to take everything that is from 1975 and forward and putting it into a database.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that's the tricky part because you've been on the market for so long. And still, even though you are switching to a LIMS system, it's not like you're starting to pull all the archive.
Right. And we didn't even ask you to put all of that database in. And I don't even mean it from that, but I mean methods, reporting limits, action levels, detection levels, MCLs.
Consolidating them into one place, I think, was one of the hardest part to do for you guys because you also had to sync with the other location.
Yep. Yeah, but we got it.
Yeah, you got it. And how do you think the process that we went through with you, I mean, you went through with us to gather all that information, how did that work for you compared with the other LIMS that you tried to, use?
We knew what we needed. We had what we needed, right? We're knowledgeable about our business. We know what we needed, what we wanted. We had the information. But what we lacked and what I feel like we didn't get a good gauge on in other situations was a simple, logical, but usable way to say, this is how we need you to put it into a place that we then will get it into a usable format, into a usable platform. Okay. And for us, I think if we had that prior, we would have been rolling, because it's not as if we didn't have all of our own information and knowledgeable about all of our information.
Because you are reporting everything.
It's not like we don't have this. And it's not as if we didn't have it in a format between our own locations. That formatting may have been different from the locations, but it was certainly available and established. So I think what we needed was someone to say, we need it to look like this.
Yeah.
And we need it to be in this format, and we need it to be in this pretty little spreadsheet, or this pretty little spreadsheet, and then we need it on this pretty little spreadsheet, and then this pretty little spreadsheet, and then doing it in pieces that weren't so like
a lot.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I think made it doable for us, or it certainly made it doable for me, especially when you have people who already don't have time.
Yes.
Right? Yes. Certainly not time to spare. That seemed to do it certainly for us. And then when we could do it and say, okay, we could do it in chunks, and then you guys go away with it and say, okay, yeah, this is working for us. And then it was just motivation for us. Okay, we can do this.
Yeah. So I know that we struggled in the beginning to understand exactly, like, in what format do you have that information? I mean, we were kind of asking for it. You send us actually some papers, like some documents with some of the analytes and the reporting limits and everything. But we were just wondering, okay, but like, is it all here or no? And then you sent us more. And I was like, okay, we need a way to make sure that we are not missing anything. So that's why we started with analytes, a list of all the analytes that you have, and then we had for each analyte testing method.
Yep, and then that's really what we needed, because putting it in a way like that, because in prior situations it was loading an already pre-existing format, but it was one at a time, where for us it was so much easier just a line item where it was all in.
You mean all like the template reports? You had like the final reports, like a template for them, and you would only use that for a specific analyte? Yes. I know that you had different reports.
Yes, so it would, so when the prior systems kind of got backloaded, it was up to us to do all the backloading for one, which, I suppose that's just how they work, but it wasn't really our expertise. That's not what we do. It's one thing for us to be able to express what we know about our micro and chemical processes. We can provide you all that information, but we just needed the assistance in getting it into the form that someone could then go, make it pretty, make it usable, that's where we struggled prior. So, and in the flow, having it in a way that it just made sense for us, how we moved through our analytical world, because it is very much made for us. I'd like to think that the world works the way we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know. I've never worked anywhere else but here. So in an analytical state,
Yes.
this is my only this is my only environmental laboratory job. So
Well, you did a really great job here.
well, thank you. Yes.
And the people here, the culture is so nice. From the moment I stepped in the lab, I didn't thought that anyone wouldn't like come say hi to me and say something to me. Like everyone was kind of coming to me and ask about like specific stuff. Can you do this? Can you do that? And I was like, yeah, of course, everything is possible.
Yes, everything is possible. Yes, with time and with patience. And we have learned, and I have tried to adapt this, especially when people come to me and they'll say, well, Carrie, can we get LIMS to do XYZ? You know, they'll say something. And I'll look at them and I'll say, why do you want it to do that? And they'll answer me, and I'll say, you know, I channeled Roxana when I said that because Roxana has this way with her. When you ask for something in LIMS, she will say to you, now why do you want it to do that? Because you have to have a good answer for her when you're asking for something, because she wants to know why specifically, because either she's going to give you what you want and you're going to instantly regret it. Like you're going to instantly regret what she has given you. And I mean that with love, because I know that from experience. I've said, I've got to have this, and then been like, please take it back. I can't handle what you gave me. Or she'll say, now why do you really want that? And then you'll talk it through, and then most of the time they'll be like, okay, I see where you're coming from for that. So this is something I learned from you. You have to ask why.
Yes. Because it's not like, okay, you come to me with a request, but I don't know what's your actual problem, right? So maybe the problem is not coming from where I think it would come from. So I have to understand that and put my Carrie boots on and you know.
That's right.
Kind of
work it
out, because it's not like I can do everything that you do in the lab. I don't have the expertise on that. But I should be able to understand at the minimum level what the problem is that you're facing right now, so I can help and guide you with the right tool.
And there's probably a better way to get through it. We've made such a leap, let's put it that way. And it is such a change, if you will. We're not doing anything different analytically.
Correct.
Okay, all of our processes are the same. The quality of the work is the same, except for we're doing it a lot more efficiently. That's a fact. I feel like that is a fact, okay?
Yeah.
And I think we are able to do it in a way that, if anything, there's less potential for when you are putting pen to paper. And the potential is still there when you're putting fingers to keyboard. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
but
like typing problems.
Yes,
happen a lot.
Typos, right? But any time that you have to do something and then write it again and write it again and write it again, you have that potential for making a mistake.
Yeah.
So anytime that you can do something once and not have to repeat it, and anytime that you can do it efficiently and get it done in less time, it leaves the opportunity for you to get more business and to give your clients more time on the phone and to give them better service, which is what we want to do. And then it gives us more time to give our employees more time.
I remember you telling us, regarding more time, telling us that you have right now a problem. And we were like, I think 3 or 4 months since the first launch. I was like, oh my God. Like they didn't bring like a problem into our sync calls that wasn't, you know, super urgent, but she was like super serious. You were super serious. We have a major problem. We have right now the problem that not all of us have chairs for lunch to be on the terrace. And you were like, I was like, why would that be my problem? I don't know. But it's only on my mind, right? So I was just okay. But why? I mean, don't you like? Why do you have that problem? And you were like, because we actually have time to do lunch together. And I was like, oh my god. So they weren't. I was like, they weren't already.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
No.
Oh my god.
But that was my new problem. And that was only 4 months in.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was like, after that call, I just stayed outside for the first time, looking at like all the chairs that I have around me, and they are empty because I don't have like such a big team,
Right.
like yours. But I was like, oh my god, these guys actually are just starting out to have lunch together, and like you have such a great connection here. And I was like, I thought that they were eating together at least.
You can ask them. We have sat down together more in the past year than we ever.
Oh my god. Oh, like this is super emotional for me because I love being around people and I love to share lunch and just chit chat. It's a nice thing to do. For me, this one was the most craziest problem that we actually gave to someone. Like we caused.
Oh yeah, this is a problem.
Yeah, this is a problem that you caused.
Well, yeah. Thanks for that, but
you solved it.
But yeah,
you solved it.
Yeah, we figured it out. I'm proud of it for sure. If for no other reason than because I wasn't sure it would ever happen, just because it failed so much, because we had a couple times, and I just think everybody was just they had just such a bad taste in their mouth over it because the prior attempts.
Well, you were the only person that kept this running, from my perspective. I mean, I think that if we weren't talking to you, I don't think this would have happened, because like the other people that were like involved in the other LIMS onboardings weren't so open to try again.
Yeah.
Like again, with this, because it didn't work before.
Right. And I think for me, because they did happen in the other laboratory, it was so much closer to their home.
Yeah.
So I think here it was a little bit more like, okay, we'll try it here and see if we can't, kickstart it.
This is a good point. So when we started like our collaboration, you had this specified in the contract that you want to start here first, and then to the second location. But we ended up doing the launch there first, and here. It was kind of in the same time, but like one day after, something like that, because we had to travel and we were like on site for the launch.
Yeah.
But we made a test environment for you guys. And I know I talked about this with other people as well, but we created the test environment for you first. And you played around with it, and we made a lot of improvements before the actual launch. And the other guys played around with it too, but they weren't involved in the like onboarding phase, let's say, so much as you did, but they were confident enough to want the launch happening there first. Right? So that was one thing that kind of surprised me in a good way,
Yeah, that they were confident in it,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it definitely took both to jump in. For sure.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, I mean, you guys gotta feel good about that. Like,
thank you. I appreciate a lot the fact that you were so confident that this would work, like for both locations. You just provided us everything that we needed to make it happen. So
I want to keep going.
Yeah, me too.
I want to keep going.
Me too.
Yeah.
So right now we have almost 1 year since the first launch, and 2 weeks since we actually launched the updated version, so you can actually run almost everything through LIMS right now. And we already announced I don't know if Marisa told you, but she, like, I mean, all of you made it to over 150 orders already
In 2 weeks.
in 2 weeks. Location.
Oh, just Salisbury?
Yeah.
Man, I was going to say I knew it was us.
Well, they started later.
Of course they did.
They started later and just with some orders.
Yeah. Well, because they had a lot of people out and everything too, but
Yeah.
well, because I mean that team downstairs, they just jumped in feet first.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing. I mean, we did a launch and first day,
Yep,
Marisa just
on it.
And he started to run orders and we received like notifications that reports are made and stuff like that. And I was like, oh my God, it's
Fearless.
It's actually
Yep.
working.
Yeah, of course it is.
You know?
Yeah.
So it was really nice feeling. I want you to think about how the life before LIMS was for you, because you have this aura of taking care of everything, making sure that everything is organized in the lab and with the clients and everything. So I want you to tell me, how was it like before going to LIMS 2 years ago, at the end of each month, when you were, I don't know, looking through papers, reviewing everything, reports, the CMDP report, everything.
Oh my God, CMDP.
Like, how was the life before LIMS for you?
It's a little, I think, odd, because I guess it's kind of like with money, right? Like, the more money you have, the more money you spend. That's what they say, right?
Yes.
I guess that's what they say. So for me, in my true fashion, I have delegated my worries. I have found, which is exactly what I wanted to do. This is my honest response, and you know I am nothing but honest and transparent.
Yes.
I have found that I have already replaced the things that I worried about that I should not be worrying about. Like whether my systems that we have been doing the same thing for month in and month out and quarter in and quarter out are done, even though I know they're done. I need to go through channels to make sure that they're done, because that's what you have to do. You have to check this and check that and log this and log that, right? Mm-hmm. Rather than just looking and seeing if all the samples that I loaded are just gone because I'm through that month and now they're over here instead of in there, right? I don't find myself worrying over it. I'm still worrying.
Yeah.
But I have found new things to worry over. Mm-hmm. I have already set my sights on other things, which I wouldn't be good at my job, I don't think, if I hadn't, right? You and I talked about this. Mm-hmm. Dachen and I talked about this. What would I do with my time? And I've done it. I've found new things to put my time into. So I don't have free time, which is okay. For me.
You like to keep yourself busy.
Yes.
That's a fact.
Yes. I don't think my owner would be very happy to, that's not true. He probably would be very happy to know that I was relaxing a little bit more, truth be told, okay? Or that's what he tells me. But I would like to think that not worrying about those things have just made some other avenues for me to put my mental space into. And the same, I think, goes for Marissa. The time that it was taking, and I can't express to you the hours and hours that was involved in making those CMDP files by hand.
How much time would you approximate that could have taken?
I mean, she's quick. Like, she's quick.
She's a really quick typer.
She's quick, but on like the first month of a quarter, she would probably be a better person to answer that than me. But if I had to do them, it would probably take me a good 15 hours, I would say.
Each month?
Yeah.
For the CMDP report?
Yeah, especially the first month of the quarter, because it's so heavy. That first month of the quarter. I mean, she's probably quicker at it. And then, it's down to, because I've let go of some of that insecurity with the system. So I'm still doing my checks and balances that I probably will always do. But I've let it go enough now. So once we have the file and I do my upload, you know, I'm probably spending an hour on that file every month.
Nice.
And MAR is down to, because now, and this month will even be less, because everything's going into it, and because we can say that it's public water, it's going into it.
Yeah. So this is a new thing that
right,
came
because
with this
prior
knowledge.
she was still having to dump public water systems into and populate some outside of what was in Publix. But now, where they're being generated over, and it's just a matter of, there is some manipulation I have to do to it, but if I can actually sit down and focus on it, I could have it done in an hour. It probably takes longer than that because I'm like, you know what I mean? But I could focus on it and have it done in an hour. That file is wow. You've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it.
So and I can't imagine the other labs, what they're doing 3 times the data entry on it. I've just found like I've found new projects, but that's just growing our business. I would like to think.
I remember you saying to us, like, so after you started to have the CMDP generated and all the stuff, like automated reports, I think you were 2 or 3 months in the system. So it was beginning of this year. And you and Lisa told us that in theory we have some time back. Because we asked you about, well, how is it going?
Yeah.
Do you have more free time? And you were like,
well,
no. And I was like, why? Well, because now that we don't have to do the report anymore and other stuff, then it's sending us to conferences or trainings.
Yes! That's what I mean.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's like, but that's how it is.
Yeah.
That's what business is about. It's being efficient and putting tools in place to make your life efficient where you can be efficient. Otherwise, you're not going to make it, right? Like, or you're gonna get the other guy is charging $1 less is going to get the service, right? So if we've got to keep a way to provide good service. So I have let go. You would be very proud of me. I have let go of some of that control and anxiety over those reports and just trust. And Mar definitely has. Mar's like, it's in there. It's fine.
Yeah.
And because when you upload to that sort of thing, it's like you can see your client name. You can see the clients and whatever. So I still go through and I'm like, matches gone, moving on to the next thing, and just down to the next item on the list. And I'd like to think that we're spending time focusing on this too, on trying to make this.
Yeah. I just have so many references,
I'm a wealth of.
We spend a lot of time in video calls.
Oh yeah.
So this is only the second time we are actually meeting in person, but I feel like you are my friend. So it's
100%. I agree. Yes.
Yeah. So I love the fact that every time we went on a call, we had like some goals, right, for each meeting. And after the first launch, you started to have other ideas, like new ideas.
Oh yeah.
I would love to have that. This would be nice.
Yeah.
Would that be possible? And I was like, yeah.
I got addicted.
Everything is possible.
I got 100% addicted. Yes.
Yeah. So I was like super. I didn't expect you to kind of be so proactive with. Well, I would like to do that more. I would like to have a button. Like you actually were asking about a specific button to do a specific thing in a specific area of the process. Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
Like having your brain around it, the fact that everything is possible, I think helped a lot to improve the entire process, basically. not just the process when it comes to entering information into an application. It's basically how you run the lab. I know that before Marisa was the one responsible, like entering most of the information, right? First, when a client drops everything.
Yes. For
And
like private work.
yeah. So what about now? How does that work? Like the entire
Yeah, so I
process?
think I definitely have been grabbing a lot of them and doing them because I don't hate doing it. First of all, Mara and I are predominantly in the building on that floor, so that's largely why we don't call her the gatekeeper just for giggles, right? Like, she's the gatekeeper for a reason. She's the first person people see when they walk through that building. And oftentimes, depending on where I'm at in the building or what I'm doing, she might be the only person available, right? That's on a particular floor, right?
Yeah.
Depending on who's wearing analyticals, right? So for whatever reason, that's why she's that person who a lot of times that's who people interact with when their samples come in.
Yeah.
Okay. So she's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to people not knowing what they want, or people knowing what they want, but they don't know how to ask for it, or people might know what they want, but they don't want to pay for it, or, you know, the world's
Endless possibilities.
endless possibilities, right? And so that was a big hurdle that we had to get over, right? Was the endless possibilities, which was so different from the public world, because the public world is set, right? Yes. And then now I think for me with the privates, we've gotten into a cadence, I would say. So much like before, if depending on which of us are grabbing the phone or whatever the case may be, we're both in there, hands-on for the most part. I am comfortable enough, I'm not going to screw up anything she's done. I'm being honest, right? And especially now that we've gotten some of the, you know, those initial bugs and things worked out.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've had the time to really get in there and see how I wanted the flow to work in terms of how I wanted to populate the samples and whether it was easier for me. Like, I think that was a little bit of my initial like slow, is that I wanted to see, do I want to use the kits, or do I want to add samples individually, or just what worked best for me. And then that way I wanted to have a handle on it before I talked to people. And then I spent a lot of time with everyone in here, just kind of going through and saying, okay, well, this is how I'm doing it, but you can do it this way. Or and then spending time with people about the paids and unpaids, and just I did a lot of one-on-one time with people that Mar didn't need, because she was so involved in the whole private process. The time that I wasn't in the system loading, I was still in the system, but more so in a kind of a show and tell state with everybody that was in here, and just kind of going through and saying, okay, well, you probably haven't seen this because it was just like everything in here. I mean, you've been in here today. It's a little, you know, so anytime I had a few minutes.
You are all hands-on, I would say.
Yes. So everybody's doing something, and not necessarily person A doesn't have job A all day long, which is a blessing, really, I feel like. So it took me a little bit longer to really sit down and start to run samples as they walk through the door, because I was kind of like, you know, making sure that everybody could get through it fully before I started running them myself. But yeah, it seems to be moving right along.
So right now, basically each one of your employees are able to create orders and process them, even though you're not there, or Marisa might not be there.
Yes, everybody's pushing them through, yes. We even have our newest employee, which you guys added for me right when Privates launched. I've had him just kind of like shadowing, but he's actually in a position where he would accept and process samples coming through. So I think he's to the point I'm probably going to have him to the point of like I'm probably going to request him to have that permission, because he's doing a great job too. Like I've just had him kind of shadowing and have him say, okay, what should we do now? You know, he's young, he finds it he finds it very intuitive. So
that's good.
But and I feel like everybody has their own kind of cadence on how they walk through it.
Of course.
Because it's not like you can, it's not like you got to do it from, that's kind of the beauty of it. You don't have to do it bottom to top or left to right, as long as you get everything filled in. It doesn't holler at you too bad, you know? So yeah, I think the only time something hollered at me is because and I'm like, oh, look at that. It hollered at me and I had to fix it. I had one yesterday that I filled through that because it was a public water system. So I selected it as such, but I didn't fill out the PWS ID number.
And you asked for that to be mandatory.
It came up and said, you cannot continue. It was bright red and it said, you selected this as a public water supply and you have not entered. And I said, well, color me happy. I better put it. So look at that. So, yep. So
you
put it in.
don't have to worry about that afterwards.
That's right. So it made me put that in, and I didn't have the other information available, but that was fine and let me move forward. And so, see, you gave me what I it gave me what I asked for. Didn't I say that? Be careful what you ask Roxana for, because she'll give it to you.
Well, actually, I asked about like why.
Yeah.
And I kind of kept it with my teeth to have the PWS ID number mandatory. Because at some point you wanted to change that into optional.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, but let's see why.
Yes.
It's optional. Well, because it would make creating the order much faster. And I was like, yeah, but when would you have that number? Like, don't you have it already? And for like current customers that we know, we are pre-filling it for you.
Right.
So only if it's a new one, you have to enter it.
Well, and in this situation, it actually wasn't on the report, on the paperwork. So I just stopped what I was doing. I said, oh, wait, but it was a system already in LIMS. So I caught, here's his phone number, called him up, and I said, we don't have your PWS ID number. If you want us to submit it, we need it. And then I added it to the chain and then put it in the system and then saved it. And then
next time
it's in there. And he shouldn't be asking for it to be submitted without providing it. So for me taking it without, so see, that's why I asked you to originally to not let me send it without the number. I knew there was a reason I asked for it. But, and that's the thing, like you get into this, like, we're running in here. We're running. But you got to get this information, right? And so
you don't have to remember to ask for it.
Yes, and I would have gotten that information at some point. I would have gotten it before I sent the report. Yes, this is true. But it just made me get it right that second. Great.
You solved the problem.
It's done. You know what they say. You know what I say. No time like the present. Why put it off and do it tomorrow when you can do it right now when your LIMS system is hollering at you in bright red? It's literally saying, Roxana says get this PWS ID number right now. And that's what we did. So it was good for me to spend some time showing people how to use it. Mm-hmm. For me, it was good for me to spend some time showing people how to work their way through it. Mm-hmm. Because for me and my role, whatever role you want to define that as.
Pick your hat.
Yes, whatever you want to say that is for today. It's good for me to hear what questions people have. Mm. Okay, because then I can say, well, much like you do, well, why? Because then I'm like, well, yeah, but is that really a valid question? And if I don't know the answer to it, or I can't reason an answer to it, or I can see things that I don't necessarily see, and everybody's role in here their roles define how they move through the system. Mm-hmm. I find that a collector moves through the system just a little bit differently sometimes than the way that someone who only does testing.
Because they are looking for different information.
Right. So for me, going from public to when the private launched, it was useful for me to not just jump right in and do it from what I knew of the system from spending so much time with it from your and I's meetings.
Yes.
To see it from eyes that had never laid eyes on it before. So I took a little bit to look at it from that perspective before I didn't want to dictate to them.
What's your opinion on having different user permissions? Like giving people access to just some of the information?
I'm split on it, honestly, because like today, for just talking about like, so we've got a part-time person, but in a lab my size where everyone does everything, I do feel like there's some instances where not everyone should wield all power. I don't think that he should be able to see all the laboratories, for instance. However, when I have a part-time person who's fully trained and has been fully quality control checked within the standards of this laboratory, even though he only works 30 hours a week, so he's 25 hours a week, so he's still part-time, and he's an analyst, but I haven't given them the permissions to check in a sample.
Oh my God.
You know, because that's me, because I didn't think to check that box.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, get these samples off my counter. And then I go, and he's like, where do I do that at? And I'm like, so then I got to go in, send a request, you know what I mean?
Yes.
I feel like the user permissions, they definitely have their place. But at the same time, it probably should be like a broad, especially in a lab my size, it probably should be like a broad, okay, everybody gets these permissions with the exception of that they can't see.
Or they cannot edit something.
Right. Yeah. But
this is at your, like you decide that.
100%. Yeah. And I'm the one who decided that for whatever reason, that he couldn't change, and I don't even know what I was thinking.
Well, you wanted most probably for him to just see some information, but not being able to actually mess around with the information first. Yeah. Because like it's a new employee. Like,
yeah. And I think that's maybe what I was thinking. Like, oh, maybe it's best if he just like looks at it, but at the same time, it's like super simple to change. You know, you make a request and it's changed, so it's not like it takes, you know, an act of Congress or something to get it changed. So I definitely think it has its place. In a lab our size, there's not many people that don't have full access.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like our collectors, they're happy not seeing reporting. Like they don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're like one less thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
One less thing I got to deal with them.
We talked about how painful the onboarding a new employee could be sometimes, because they would come in, you would have to explain all that. What's going on in the lab?
It was torturous. It really was. That's valid.
How was it back then?
How has LIMS made it better? If LIMS has made it better. Okay, that's valid. So in particular, what you're referring to is our world is full of exceptions. So there is, well, you have to use this form, except. You have to use this chain of custody, except. You're going to do this except for this client. And there's a lot of that. And when I say there's a lot of that, there will be 99% and then there will be this one customer. So as far as the onboarding training goes, in terms of the routine samples, the public order samples that are in a cadence, because we have preloaded the LIMS system with our schedule, that I would say is going to be easier. And I'm going to say going to be easier because we, as you know, are in the process of making sure that all of our seasonals are loaded. Okay. So as far as onboarding a new collector, the seasonals is where it's tricky. Because it's, well, you have to do this client and you can only do them in this time frame. Okay. You can only do these systems when they're in season or when they're in service.
It's still tricky for you to have that 20% maybe of
Yes.
the like seasonals.
Yes.
I think 20% would be a fair number.
So, yes. So right now, we're still, as you know, we're getting ready to test them, right? So hopefully going into 2025, that's going to be on wrap. Like we're going to have that done, right? I would still say that at least with 2024, we didn't have to rely on like a coding in our, because it was logged out, right? But the person had to manually do the logs, and it had to be in the person's head.
So you had to still train them on that.
Yes.
Okay, I see what.
Okay. So in a perfect world, that should get easier to be determined. Okay, so it's going to be, in a perfect world, it should be a one and done. It should be a load the system, check it, make sure that there's no change in that system. And by that I mean water system versus loading it into LIMS. And then as long as the water system schedule doesn't change, then LIMS should just kick them every year, right? And then that will have an impact for sure. And getting that information out of someone's brain.
That basically he doesn't have the information yet, so you have to preload the information in there.
Get it out of Marissa and Carrie's brain that's just walking around.
That should be like in the SOP, right? In the beginning, like the guidebook, the guidelines.
What? Go pick Carrie's brain on random information. I don't know. And a lot of this stuff is like, I don't know what to say. It's just, and what we've always done is comb through every single one of these systems and preload these logs. So in a perfect world, we're still going to check them. Don't get me wrong. We're still going to check them. Yeah. But as long as there's no change, it's not going to be this this recreation of this log. So that's going to get better.
And we are actually working on improving the way that you are seeing the information about all these recurrencies, and we talked about this.
Yes.
And I can't wait to have it live for you guys starting next year, so you can actually be able to preview and manipulate the data as fast and as easy as possible.
Good. Yes, and I think that would be helpful for the collectors as well, because I know that they are always, if they're good, and mine are, they're always looking ahead. They're always looking ahead about making sure that they can see what's coming, because and talking about that turnover where we are fortunate we don't have it, so they know what's coming for them in their systems. Okay, so that I am expecting to see that get alleviated. And then as far as the paperwork wise, that has already been alleviated. I've already seen a difference with privates, because when a person comes in, you're not looking at them going, who are you? Because certain clients, unless you can read their shirt, I don't mean to say it if they're wearing a shirt, they all wear shirts. If they've got their name on their shirt.
Yes. The company
because
name or...
some of, we try to cater to our clients. So some of them have their folders with their paperwork pre-done for them. Ooh. Okay. So they would want to come in and they're going to go get their own paperwork. Well, if, now that's irrelevant to me. Like if you can find your own paperwork, find it. But if you can't, don't matter to me, because you better put your name on it, and because you're all going into the same. So that's lost on the person now. It's not so much the burden of the person checking them in, because we have eliminated all of that. We have made a conscious decision that all those forms are gone. There's a unified form. They've all been sent already within the last 2 weeks to all of our client base. This is your form. Use it, manipulate it if you want to bring it in, or see us and we'll help you. But this is the form you're getting. And it's one document for everyone.
And how is that working?
We've had a couple grapes, and so they've come in, and I don't like anything new, and and Mara and I will say, we're doing something new too, but this is going to get you your results out faster. This is a streamlined process. We're really hoping to, expedite your service, and then that usually just moves them over.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like us to help you fill this out? You know, it's just, everything's just moved around a little bit.
Correct.
Okay. Because we're trying to get on board with all of our labs. So we've taken our other laboratories forms, and that's what we have provided them. Okay, is their intake form. So all of our old itemized forms are gone. So that has all been also improved upon. So no matter whether it's a kit or whether it's a person off the street or a contractor, it should be the same form now, walking in the door. And so now the person intaking doesn't have to say, well, which company are you? Let me get your proper form.
Or let me get, again, the information.
Right. And so, and they're like, well, I don't feel like filling all this out. That's fine. If you've been here before, then just give me your company name, because we should have you in our system already.
Yeah. And how that feels like.
And they're like, okay. And then sure enough, they're already in our LIMS system. And it's been going okay. So that's been alleviated. And we did that. Mar and I talked about it. It was her idea. She's like, I think we should just get rid of it. I'm like, do it. Make it look, what do you want on it?
Yeah.
I did the form. She approved it. Done.
Nice.
Okay. So that's better. And then as far as like what I would like to see.
Yes, of course.
Is where I foresee that, which you and I have talked about, is preservation on labels. But there's already, those labels are...
Have you seen the updated version?
Yes, they look great. They look great.
So,
yeah, preservation on labels. I don't know what our sister's lab is, their feelings are on it, but to me, and you know how I am, Roxana, if I preserve a sample, it needs to be indicated as such.
Yep.
So what we have done is talking about my colored labels.
Yes.
Okay, they're gone. They're gone. Print them out. And then what we are doing is we've just got the little like stickers that are
I saw them.
Did you see them?
Yes.
Did you make fun of them? A little bit.
No.
Okay.
Ian showed me. Yeah.
Because I've got to do something.
Well, yeah.
Okay. And then
But it's still like you don't have to handwrite everything.
No.
Because before
we did.
Yes.
100%.
You had the colors.
So it's still less.
Yes.
It's 100% still less. So that's the only thing, and the only and I'm mentioning it because in terms of like so it's just been a little bit of a switch in terms of like the training. So it's like, okay, well, you still have to, so I consider that just kind of like a trade right now. But in terms of like people coming in, they're not going to know the old way. So the new way is just going to be
The
if
default.
right.
Well, this will change, of course.
Right.
At some point, so they will have some digital form to.
Right. But still, in terms of like incubation, like as far as our micro, well, if you're picking this micro, there's some defaults built in there. You've got a hold time, it's built in there. You've got an incubation period, that's built in there. You got a pre-warm, that's built in there. We still have to train for that. We still have to PT that out. We still have things we have to do, but there's reinforcements. So I think if anything, it's just kind of like reinforced that there's things you can't do with certain medias. And if you choose those things, you shouldn't be.
Yeah. Do you think this helps them to kind of understand and be all hands on the process faster, having the information also like in the system, like, okay, this is the incubation period for Colilair, this is for Colisure, you have there the exact hold time, like if it's exceeding or not. So
I don't know, you'll have to ask one of them that.
Correct. Okay.
And the reason I say that is because I don't know, that would be hard for me to answer, because to me, I feel like it would, but it's also just beat into my brain. I don't know.
You're biased.
I am biased.
You're biased on this.
I feel like if it were me, it would have been a helpful tool because they can get a little like squirrely.
Directions.
Right. Yeah. So I feel like if it were me, I think it would have been helpful, but that might be best coming from someone who hasn't used them for 20 some years.
Of course.
Yeah, it's not like, you know, getting dressed in the morning. So yes, I think that would be a good question for one of them, but I do expect that it would be helpful for sure.
Were there any features in LIMS Plus that you found helpful? And if yes, what are those?
Where do you want me to start? How about I'm going to start with what I use regularly.
Yes.
Okay. I like being able to look in the system and see my client information associated with a sample. So I like to be able to look at the sample and see my client information. If I need to call them, it's like right there. I like being able to generate CMDP.
Are you generating the CMDP right now?
I like you generating the CMDP and providing the little file. So all I have to say is, boop.
Download.
Yeah. Download. Okay. I like that we can see failed samples.
Do you like the automation?
So yeah, I like the fact that it shows automatically when we enter data that it's very clear to us, red, green, failed, red. And by failed, I mean anything that's over MCL. Based on the information we have provided to you that we consider a failed sample. I like being able to sort by everything and anything that we have provided you and asked you for. I mean by everything and everything. County, numerological order, date, name, who sampled it, collector,
Shouldn't you be able to do
county,
that? Right?
just about everything. I think that because we've asked for just about everything and you've given it to us.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, that you can either filter by or search by. The lab overview is nice because we don't always know where our samples are in process. I'd like to always say I know where my samples are in my building, but I don't always know the point of completion, what it's waiting on. And oftentimes we have a client that's on the phone and they want to know how much longer, right? That's the $1 million question. And we are able to now quickly, based on a name, an address, an order number, to search and lab overview with any of those things. To find a sample and see what's waiting in that order, what's done, what's not done, what status it's in.
What about if they are waiting for reporting because they are unpaid?
We can see that. Yep, we can see whether it was marked for that it got invoiced, what information was provided for billed. We can see that. We can see what was put into the LIMS system for billing, yes, which is nice.
Go to the entire lab.
We don't have to do this. And find that. That's very nice. We can access all of our reports that have been generated through the system. We can see those reports by a PDF file, download them if we need to, see everything that's in our incubators, how much time is left on those incubators. We can look at them and search by method of what's in the incubators, what time is left, whether we've exceeded a maximum incubation time, or if there's minutes, seconds, or hours left, which is amazing for us to be able to do that rather than keeping individual logs and flipping through them. Timers everywhere. We still have timers, but not as many. Yeah, timers everywhere. When you first walked in here, I probably had two in my hand, or one on Mars' desk, one on my desk.
Yeah.
And you'd walk around with them, and you're like, which timer is for which? And it would just be like, well, this one's for this one, and this one's. And you're like, how do you know? You're like, don't ask questions. Just trust the process, Roxana.
On one, just one timer had a little sticky note on it. Just one. The others didn't, and I was like, okay, so if I mess around, like I don't know, fooling around.
Don't fool around with the timers.
Ooh.
No.
What will happen?
And yeah, so that's nice. Yeah, so if you lose track and you can just pop it up and be like, oh, yep, I'm good. I can go pull those. So yeah, that's very helpful.
What's your favorite button? Should I leave you with favorite button or section?
I've quite honestly enjoyed working with the privates. I have. I enjoy moving them through the process, which I kind of didn't expect. But I enjoy logging the samples in and being able to see that our clients are already in the system and being able to see all their data come up, and then, oh, well, I need to add an address. Well, that's super easy. I can just add it in for this report, but it doesn't change the whole client's information. And I've enjoyed that process in the last couple of weeks. Not that I didn't expect it to work well. I don't mean that at all. Probably, I would imagine it's because I don't work with the publics because I don't do the collections. So the time that I have spent processing the privates through, because I do work in the front of the house with bringing samples in, and I want to handle them quickly because of that, making sure that they're processed and received on that timely manner. So I've made myself go, oh, I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to get in here, play with it. So I've enjoyed putting them through, which I can assure you, I would have done the immediate things and let the rest sit until someone could have handled them. I assured you, of course.
So you're using your 14 hours that you got back
to process
from the
samples.
No way.
I mean, a few of it.
Well, yeah, but like I expected you to do something else, you know.
Well, I mean, I got to know how it's working.
Of course.
I have to provide positive feedback, just a little bit of time, just a little bit.
Okay. I think you're just going there and looking at clients.
Yeah, because that too. I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah, that too. In doing that, you know how my brain works. I'm like, oh, that could not, maybe I'll ask for that. You know how my brain works.
You are always working on your wish list.
Of course.
And your wish list is part of my improvements list. And I like that we have that kind of connected.
It's not like I'm asking for it to like shoot out rainbows or anything, you know? It's like...
And most of the time we have like already, like we are like agreeing on stuff.
It's not something that you haven't already thought about, that it's not unrealistic for your route goals and what you could see that would be necessary for someone in our business.
I mean, most of the time.
Most of the time. And the rest of the time you're going, why? Explain why.
And then we try to find an easy way to do it.
Yes.
Can you share any tangible results or changes you've noticed since you started using LIMS Plus?
I think for us, because we are having such a increase right now in a particular topic in my area, I think it's important right now for us to get out reports quickly and have them reproducible and accurate. And I do think that us having the results in a system that's trackable, which I will say that you and Dachen have been adamant from the beginning, which I appreciate, that the system, because of the nature of our business, it has to be trackable. And it has to be transparent, and everything in it has to be able to be seen. Every change has to be able to be seen, and it has to be traced.
Correct.
That is not something that you can do on an Excel file, okay? And we are in a position locally, my lab is not, but my community is. And that's all I will say about it. But we're in a position in my community locally where transparency is of utmost importance right now. And being able to have a product that can be looked at and be able to be known that it cannot be manipulated is very important to me.
I think it's for anybody.
And it's very important to my clients. And although I know that when I put my head down at night, that I have a good service and I have a good product, now I can prove it.
That's super powerful. I'm super glad that you can do that and that we can support you doing that in such an important time, especially.
Yes. And it's at a perfect time.
It's not like you would have known, right? It's hard.
I know I have nothing to worry about, and I know that my employees have nothing to worry about. I know that we've always had a good business and a good team, but sometimes you got to prove it. And this puts you in a position where you can.
You don't have just a PDF file. You can see
that somebody did whatever. Okay, so you had to change something. Why?